Alright guys, we are back in my garage for another video. You can see some of the wiring behind me. I'm actually working on upgrading the fuel system on my car, but I'm taking a break to talk to you about some new fuel upgrades that are coming for the Gen 2 B58. I actually did not expect to be making this video so soon, but we are finally getting an upgraded high pressure fuel pump option for the B58 TU. So that means it will work for the A90 Supra, the M340i, and basically all cars that come with the Gen 2 B58. And alongside with this announcement, we're also seeing a brand new Stage 2 pump that is available for the B58 Gen 1. So really exciting news, and I just kind of wanted to present the information that I do have to you guys. I don't have all the answers yet, but this is just a quick video to help you guys know this is something to keep your eyes open for. So hopefully you find this video useful. Now, as always, for everybody that's new to the channel, I create these videos to help keep you updated on the latest developments in our community, as well as discuss technical topics so that we have a better understanding of how our engines work. So if you're interested in more videos like that, be sure to subscribe because there will be a lot more coming out in the future. So like I said, we don't have a whole lot of information on these new product offerings yet. It's just now being released and information is slowly coming out over time. So I did want to tell you guys the information that I do have so you know what to look out for if this is something that you're interested in. So Spool Performance has been making high pressure fuel pump upgrades for a while, and we've talked about this in the past because there is a Gen 1 offering, but not an offering for the Gen 2 yet. The reason why is because the Gen 1 B58 runs at 200 bar or around 2900 PSI, and the Gen 2 B58 runs at 350 bar or around 5000 PSI. So a fuel pump that's designed for the Gen 1 fuel system won't necessarily work on the Gen 2 if it can't support enough fuel pressure. Now the good news is we have two new pumps coming out from Spool Performance. So the first pump that they're releasing is the FX200. This is for the Gen 1 B58, and it's actually replacing the old FX180. The FX180 got its name because it was rated to flow 180% of the flow that the stock fuel pump can handle. But now it seems like they're changing the naming convention where this new FX200 is designed for a 200 bar fuel system. So this FX200 is going to replace the FX180, and this is going to be their Stage 2 fuel pump option moving forward. Now, they did actually show some pictures and a quick video clip so that we can see what these new pumps look like. And you can tell that it is basically the same LT4 pump that we're used to. For everybody that's not aware, the Stage 2 fuel pump offerings for the Gen 1 B58 are LT4 high pressure fuel pumps from like a Z06 or Z01. And they add a spacer onto it, basically an adapter bracket, so that it can bolt onto our cylinder head, as well as the fuel lines and the wiring and stuff that's needed to actually make it as plug and play as possible. Now, the good news is this is not an off-the-shelf LT4 pump. This is actually a modified pump that they are getting to their specific specs. I couldn't quite get clarification on whether this is a pump that they're modifying in-house or if they're ordering it directly from the supplier of the LT4 fuel pumps and getting them to like a custom spec. But suffice it to say that this is not an off-the-shelf pump. And you can even see from the inlet and outlet how they converted the fittings so that it will work with their fuel lines. So yeah, it's not just the same pump that you could order from a GM website. So that means that it should be able to flow a little bit more than the FX180. They're rating it, saying that it flows about double the stock fuel pump. And another big improvement is that it has a higher volumetric efficiency. We talked about this a little bit previously where we were comparing the LT1 high pressure fuel pump to a TU high pressure fuel pump. And what we saw is that the peak flow is pretty similar, but the volumetric efficiency on the LT1 pump is a little bit greater. And that just kind of helps it pair better with a big turbo setup. And so I anticipate that this new fuel pump option will be the same. The way that they've modified it increases the flow a little bit, but primarily makes it a better fit for big turbo setup. So it should flow more at higher pressures and in the higher RPMs. More good news is that this actually comes with a hardline option. So if you don't want to bend your hard lines, you can actually add on the new hardline that will make it completely plug and play. And they still offer it with an optional fuel filter. So if you want to add an additional fuel filter add a little more safety to your fuel system, protect your injectors and all of that, then you can actually option that in as well. Now, the big news, and probably what most of you are looking for, is the new FX350. And just like the FX200, this naming convention appears to be linked to the fuel pressure that the fuel system is rated for. So they did mention that an FX350 is in the works. Unfortunately, we don't have any pictures or flow rates or information outside of the fact that it will be a little more expensive than the FX200. So what I'm guessing is they're still using an off-the-shelf fuel pump and modifying it for this purpose. Potentially they're adding or changing the fuel pressure relief system so that it can run at a higher fuel pressure. I looked at the other 350 bar options on the market and just none of them seemed to make any sense. The only one that I saw was the LT6, which basically looks like a TU pump, but the inlet and outlet orientation are in completely different locations. So I'm not really sure how that could be modified to work with the B58 fuel system design. Maybe that's what they're using. Time will tell. We're waiting for that to fully be released. But they did say that that will be coming out in the next couple weeks. So keep your eyes out for that. You can also follow their social media for the latest announcements. Now let's talk about what we don't know. So the FX200, of course, we do have a price because it's just replacing the FX180, but we don't know what the FX350 will cost. Like I said, we know it's going to cost more, but we don't know how much more, and that can potentially be a limiting factor. A lot of the Gen 2 guys are very comfortable now running a reflex with port injection, so this needs to come in at a very competitive price if we want to see people running this on their Gen 2 B58. Also, we don't know the actual flow rates. They did say that the FX200 runs about twice the flow of the stock B58 Gen 1 fuel pump, and then we're still waiting for the FX350 flow rate, so hopefully they'll actually publish that on their website so that everybody can see. And then the same thing goes for peak horsepower numbers. I think the highest that we've seen on the standard stage 2 pumps is around 700 wheel horsepower on an ethanol mix. So if this is able to support more than that, that would be great. But we don't know where the limits of the injectors will be. And this is kind of a point of contention. I've seen some people say that we're pretty much limited by the injectors already. So a bigger fuel pump might not really be worth it. I'm still waiting again for more data from people testing out these pumps to kind of prove that out for sure. But there might also need to be a fuel injector option coming down the pipeline in order for us to take advantage of these upgraded fuel pumps. So hopefully people can try it out soon and we can see where the next limit is. Now, for people that aren't familiar, these fuel pumps do run differently than the OEM pumps, so they require custom settings. That means that if you have a Gen 1 B58, you're going to need to flash custom settings in your tune. And if you have a Gen 2 B58, the same thing applies for the FX350. So you're going to need to flash those custom settings to your car in order for it to work. So that means if you have an early Gen 2 B58, then hopefully you'll get software from Boot Mode and MHD that supports that with a checkbox. If you have Ecutech, then your tuner is going to have to add that coding to your file in order for you to flash it and run the upgraded fuel pump properly. And if you have a later model, then you're going to need to get a FEM2 unlock because this is not something that you can simply switch or change with a piggyback tune like a JB4 or anything like that. So basically this will only work with an actual flash tune that has the custom settings in it in order to run these upgraded fuel pumps. And one last thing that I saw is a lot of people saying, can the FX350 work on a Gen 1? It seems like it should, just like the TU pump works on a Gen 1, the FX350 should work the same. All the same, risks will be there as well, so you won't have a fuel pressure relief valve or anything to control it if something in your system gets out of control, but the tune is what actually controls your fuel pressure. So for all intensive purposes, you should be able to run an FX350 on a Gen 1 B58, but since we don't know flow rates, it's hard to really say if that will be an advantage or not. So yeah, I think that's all the information I have for now. Again, this is kind of fresh news that just dropped over the weekend, so I wanted to make this video to show you guys what's coming down the pipeline, help keep everybody aware so that we know what to pay attention to. Hopefully a lot of people get these, try them out, and push them so that we can get some good data on where the limits are. I think they had about 100 or so for sale, and those are probably all claimed. If not, you guys can check out the website or send them an email, and they should be able to hook you up with an FX200 or let you know when the next batch is coming in, so you might have to get on the wait list. But most of us are probably used to that by now since the LT4 pumps have been on back order from pretty much everybody for the past several months. So I guess we'll have to wait a couple more weeks to see when more come in. But yeah, that's it for this video. So thank you guys for watching, and I hope this helps. And if you have any other questions or comments, leave them down below.